Imagine a geometric structure shattering without sparks or light. Instead, an absolute black void simply punches through the center, dragging the surrounding lines into nothingness. Magic, in this framework, operates independently of mana or mystical energy. In pseudology, truth functions as a physical, load-bearing structure, the primary building block holding the universe together. Existence is maintained by a unanimous agreement among its own components. An object remains real because the local environment and the laws of physics continuously agree on its properties. There are no ethereal currents to channel or mystical weaves to pluck. The environment is entirely rigid, reinforced by a relentless consensus of data. Because magic exists only as a structural failure, casting a spell constitutes a deliberate act of breaking the architectural integrity of the universe. Speaking a falsehood acts as a literal physical solvent. Lying applies immediate corrosive stress to the framework of reality. When this stress reaches a breaking point, it generates a lacuna, a localized pocket where the universe has been scrubbed entirely blank. This occurs when a sentient being makes a deliberate assertion that directly collides with physical reality, introducing an unresolvable, fatal contradiction into the universe's raw data. The universe lacks an internal mechanism to process a logical paradox. Faced with a contradiction it cannot reconcile, reality simply stops rendering at the exact coordinates of the lie. The ultimate threat in this world is the introduction of a structural incompatibility that forces the universe to crash. Even without malicious intent, the environment suffers from ambient doubt, a baseline instability caused by the daily, minor misunderstandings of sentient life. This diagram maps the friction of contradiction, the exact instant what is said collides with what is. The local consensus fractures, leaving a jagged rift of missing data. The universe initiates an automated attempt to overwrite the contradiction. The surrounding reality warps and bends inward, trying to stretch across the gap to patch the data. A minor white lie creates a temporary spatial glitch. The grid compensates and the tear snaps back together, leaving only a microscopic distortion in the local spacetime. A great deception creates a permanent hole. The contradiction overwhelms the repair mechanism, and the rupture consumes a section of the lattice that can never be recovered. Investigators use a resonance bridge to measure the agreement density of these zones, tracking how much a local area agrees to exist, rather than searching for energy signatures. Crossing the rigid data threshold of reality through deception yields measurable physical damage to the environment. Practitioners who learn to exploit these tears are known as fablers or void tongues. Void tongues operate by directing a vacuum inward, pulling at the environment through deliberate absence. A rift containing absolutely nothing possesses the gravity of absence. Surrounding matter is violently dragged toward the center as the universe attempts to fill the dead space. This suction pulls at the physical truth of nearby objects. As matter approaches the lacuna, its structural integrity dissolves, and it loses its form before crossing the threshold. By placing a lie precisely, a practitioner funnels this suction to dismantle an enemy or rearrange the local geography. Magical manipulation in this system is the weaponization of the universe's mechanical attempt to fill missing data. The ultimate exploit occurs when a falsehood is spoken by someone who genuinely believes their own words. This is classified as Grade 7 magic, the sincere lie. Because the speaker harbors no internal contradiction, they bypass the universe's structural defenses. Reality is vulnerable to a lie backed by absolute conviction. A sincere lie can trigger a global failure cascade, deleting entire regions as the universe tries and fails to reconcile the world with the speaker's total belief. This scale of magic produces visual silence. Light hits the edge of the void and terminates without scattering. Words lose their endings as audio waves drop into an acoustic failure. In a universe governed by structural agreement, the deluded true believer becomes a weapon of mass destruction. Operating as a vessel for non-existence exacts a steep biological cost, damaging the practitioner over time. As a void tongue asserts more lies, their own physical referential coordinates decay, and they lose their anchor to reality. This illustrates the final stages of that decay. On the left are the hollowed, liars whose bodies have become localized voids the universe no longer recognizes as real. On the right side of the spectrum are the concordance keepers. Keepers stabilize the environment through an obsessive, absolute adherence to asserting structural truth, constantly reinforcing the local lattice. This hyperfixation leads to tautological collapse, forcing the keeper's biology to conform to an impossible absolute. Biological variance is replaced by a rigid mathematical dictionary function, and the individual ceases to be a person. The system enforces a horrific equilibrium. Absolute deception erases the human vessel into the void, while absolute truth erases the human vessel into the dictionary. The primary observers of this decay are the Collegium of Structural Truths. The organization functions as a hybrid of a coroner's office, a civil engineering firm, and a terminal care facility for existence. They maintain a strict policy of non-intervention, recognizing that any attempt to fix a rift causes more friction through new assertions. This archival chart shows the effects of identity shear. Frontline surveyors often retroactively cease to exist, their names and histories vanishing from the records entirely. To survive the boundary conditions of a lacuna, surveyors rely on spatial disciplines, precise movement protocols that prevent the body from drifting into the gravity of absence. Personnel undergo the concordance test, a rigorous self-referential loop to verify their biological and historical continuity before they are allowed to return to duty. The Collegium's work suggests that reality cannot be saved. It can only be diagnosed as it dies. The Collegium categorizes the current era of documented decay as the seventh unraveling. Institutional rot plagues the Collegium itself, and the bureaucracy is failing like a terminal organism. Their archives are filled with unreferable records, notes recovered from surveyors who the universe dictates were never born. Pseudology forces us to view the act of lying as a fatal structural crime that permanently amputates pieces of reality. This magic system guarantees its own erasure. The final record of reality is written in a void